As I told you guys, I would try and get a video made with Dr. Latessa. I want to talk about what an OCD is, why we have to send some of the horses to a clinic for castration, and why you can do some of the castrations and the difficulties there. So as I get my list up, why don't you tell everybody exactly the two differences between the castrations you can do and the castrations that we have to send we've been sending to Dr. Brown.
Right. So typically with the colts, during their development, the testicles will drop down through the inguinal rings, it comes down through and sits in the scrotum. So some horses, the rings are maybe too small, so the testicle cannot drop down into the scrotum. So during our routine castrations that we'll do at the track or out in the field, we can't access that testicle. It's maybe up in the belly somewhere. So also, if sometimes the rings may be too big where the testicle does come down, but it goes right back up and it kind of hides for a while, so it's not, again, easily accessible for us to do in the field. So the safest way to do it would be to send to a clinic, send to Dr. Brown, and they could do surgery. They knock them down, lay them on their back, and are able to go in and find that little hidden testicle.
So it's stuck up in and then can't come down?
Correct.
Oh, I didn't even know that myself.
Yeah. So we call them ridglings or crypt orchids.
The crypt orchids both of them are up, right?
Crypt orchid is still just a normal term for a ridgling.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be a bilateral crypt orchid where both of them will be up, and that does happen on occurrence.
So a lot of the times in the sales, you'll hear ridglings. We're always looking for value, and for us, if you are going to so I guess the first thing would be, is there any, aside from that added surgery and knocking the horse out and having to go to the clinic, and is there any long-term effects for being a crypt orchid, being a ridgling, as opposed to just being castrated in the field or being left to stuff?
No, as far as the procedure to geld them, no, they're just as normal as any other horse. If you don't geld them or don't go get that testicle that hasn't descended yet, sometimes horses may be funny going behind. It may cause a little bit of pain as it moves around within the belly area.
And that's a good point, because we had a couple of clients ask me, Spitfire Overseas is still a ridgling. Now, he's listed in one program as a gelding, but he is a ridgling.
Yeah. And
we left him that way because he never showed any signs of discomfort, and I just thought he was a really nice horse, so we left him. Stonebridge Simba, way back, he's since been gelded by someone else, but we left him a ridgling. My take on it is simple. It's the same approach we're going to take with the OCDs we'll talk about in a minute this year, is that if this is something that could potentially cause the horse discomfort or slow down the training process or put gaps or holes in the training process, it's something that we'd like to manage right away. And I guess what the question I was out to ask, and you already answered it, was when we go to the sale, we're always looking for value. And I know that a lot of horses, they'll say ridgling and people are like, ugh, and they'll end up going for a lot less. And for us, the difference between a ridgling, it might be a couple of $100 or $1,000 more to perform that surgery at a clinic than it would for you to do it, but the result is the exact same.
Correct.
So when we're at a sale and you hear ridgling, all I hear is value, because people are inevitably, for whatever reason, going to hang away from that horse. It's going to cost the breeders money, but really, when you look at the bidding process at a sale, it's not even one bid.
Correct.
But it could be a lot of money in the long run. So we ended up with 3 or 4 ridglings, I think, this year.
I think so. And there's a couple that I can feel both testicles, and sometimes if you wait a little bit or sedate them and it will drop down, we can do them. Yeah. So there's a couple that are just waiting right now.
So that's exactly what a ridgling is, and exactly the two different procedures. Either Dr. Latessa can do it in the barn, which is just a normal castration, no big deal, or they go to the clinic where they need to have that procedure done, but it's a little more money, but the result is the exact same. Correct. So that's important for people to understand, because I have a lot of people saying, well, there's got to be something afterwards. Is there some sort of lingering issues? But there is not. So that's important. Now, on to the next topic, which I thought was very, very important for us, is the OCDs and the removal of the OCDs. Now, in the past, when I was a caretaker coming up, they didn't generally come out. You know, you just worked with them. You know, we're talking 20 years ago, so you were just in high school maybe then, or later on.
I was in college. 20
So you
years
were in
ago.
college, so it wasn't a big thing. You know, if you unless the OCD was in a place where it was really going to obviously cause discomfort, you kind of left them alone.
Right.
And the thing that I told everybody that Muscle Hill retired with OCDs in his back ankles, always had them. So
Right.
it's not a 100% you have to take it out. The stance we took on it was the exact same as a castration. If it was something that may cause a problem down the road and we have left it to chance, I just think it was an error on our part when we had the opportunity to take it out. So I know you had talked to me about a couple of the OCDs that they weren't really in a bad area. They may not cause discomfort. I just thought if it's there, we can see it. It should come out, and that was the stance that I took this year.
Right. So, you know, with OCDs, yeah, they're weekend X-ray racehorses that are 8-10 years old, made millions, world champions. They might have them in there. Never
Yep.
bothered them. You know, but what is an OCD, right?
That was the first thing, yeah.
Osteochondritis dissecans is the term for OCD.
I can see why they shortened that up.
Right. I really had to focus saying it. So, what is it? So, it's an orthopedic developmental disease, is what they call it in the fancy vet terms. Probably seen within maybe 25% of all horses,
Right.
race horses.
But where does it come from? Like, what is?
Yeah. So, during the formation of the bones and the joints, even beginning as a fetus, cartilage is laid down, bone is laid down in the joints. So there's a malformation of that cartilage being laid down in the joint. So sometimes it leaves little cartilage fragments or little bone fragments that don't seat in the bone properly. The joint will develop properly, but there's still little fragments like extra pieces and screws hanging around in the joint.
That's why I don't build anything from IKEA.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot of OCDs.
there's a lot of OCDs left out.
So, so why do we take them out? What do we look for? Yeah, it's very common. Most commonly in hocks, probably in all horse breeds. A lot of, you go to the sales, they'll see, OCDs removed from hocks, OCD removed. Because they'll show with a lot of effusion, a lot of swelling. It's a boggy hock, it's a big hock. So you can say, there's probably an OCD in there. So a lot of the breeding farms, they know, like, hey, take it out. So it's, the buyers don't have to worry about it. It's the most common site, let's go. But those fragments sitting in the joint, when, sometimes it doesn't bother a horse, but sometimes it's just almost like a little rock in your shoe.
Yeah.
You might not
Rolls
feel it.
the wrong way, yeah.
But it's going to cause over time maybe some irritation, some arthritis. So we x-ray the horses to see if it does have OCDs.
Is it black and white? There's an OCD there, or there is not? Because I have had in the past people had said to us, a couple of colts this year, in fact, people have said, no, that horse was x-rayed and it's clean at the sale. And then lo and behold, we get jogging it or maybe even starting to train it, but right now just jogging it, and then boom, a hawk like Resolve Indeed blew up the one day, and I'm like, that definitely looks like an OCD to me.
Yeah. And
it was not there.
remember, hers OCD wasn't huge,
no.
But it was hiding in there. So yes, they can hide. It's sometimes not easy to see on radiographs. Sometimes if you radiograph them too early, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, we wait, till around now to x-ray.
Yeah.
So it's not as black and white. And even the small ones, we'll call them little flakes in there. Those may be gone in 30 days.
Exactly. So I think that's
the body
important.
will just absorb it.
That's important to say because in Resolve Indeed's case, my wife and I, we went back and looked at the sale notes. The OCDs were not out of that hawk. And you can be sure there was nothing there. And my wife said, well, how is it 3 weeks later and this hawk all of a sudden blows up? From the exercise and stuff, I just thought that something, I had called rattle loose a little bit and irritated the joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of these horses, they'll not show any lameness walking.
She's not lame at all. They'll jog right up until operation time.
They may train in 2 minutes and not show lameness.
Yeah.
But when you're in mid-season and it's time to go 55, 52, they might be a little sore.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of trainers, what you're doing now, we survey the horses, we decide to take them out now, so we don't have to question it later or miss 2 months in the middle of the season.
Without putting you in a spot, but do most trainers take on the same black and white stance, or are they I will wait and see types? I don't know, because it's kind of, I don't know a lot of trainers to talk to about that, and the ones that I talk to kind of had the same stance as me. So
Yeah.
I'm curious because you see a lot of trainers.
Yeah, so maybe it's like 50-50. Some trainers, they hear OCD, they X that horse right out of the sale book. Now, like you mentioned before, 20 years ago, even the procedure to remove it has gotten so much better now. So these surgeries are very routine nowadays. The surgeons are so good at what they do now. You know, they've, over the past 20 some years,
even the last 5 years,
more understanding of what to do, how to do it. And, you know, so it's not that big of a deal or a frightening term from my standpoint. And a lot of trainers do understand that now, but some still get a little weary about it. Some don't want to know. Some don't, you know, if it's in there, it's in there. Like, I'm going to leave it alone. Because you do have risks with surgeries, you know, things can happen with any procedure, but, you know, it's just, it all depends on everyone's own take on it.
The other thing was, for a normal run-of-the-mill OCD out of an ankle, I had a client tell me, my father last year went to the university in PEI, and he was just taking OCDs at Hawks, and they said, 3 weeks in the stall, 3 weeks of hand walking, then mild exercise, and you'll be able to get back in the swing of things in 2.5, 3 months. I said, no, generally, the way that I've seen it, especially with ankles, if there was no swelling to begin with, you found the OCD, you took it out, there's been no issue with the horse, lameness, heat, soreness, anything like that. Usually, you know, just a layman way that I put it was to our people was, when the sutures come out, the harness goes on. You can walk the horse for a week, and then start jogging if everything is going according to plan.
Yeah, a lot of it is, you know, horse dependent, and, you know, situations like that.
But yeah, it's so funny, because I remember I would get the release forms just even 5-6 years ago from very reputable surgeons and places, and it would be extensive. And now it's gone from this to, there you go, right? You know, walk the horse for a week. If the horse seems fine, the suture areas aren't really bothering, there's no infection or soreness, just travel on. And that's what we've adopted for most of the horses too, and it's worked very well. But as you said, every horse is different. But for all of you out there, like Resolve Indeed, she'll have that. She's had that OCD. She was on the truck yesterday, had the OCD out. Sutures will come out in 2 weeks, and more than likely you'll see that filly back jogging by well before Christmas time, I would think. So that is what the OCDs are. Now we're going to run through who had the OCDs out quick. And I do apologize. We had a lot of horses, a lot going on. Obviously, those 3 major sales in Ontario, in between, in Indiana, around that, were all lumped on top of each other. So I had just asked Dr. Latessa and his staff, could you do me a favor? And this is huge. And I do appreciate what you did for the girls going through and x-raying the horses. It's a huge thing, you know. It's hard to get somebody just to come in. You can't get a vet to come from out of state to fluoroscope all the horses or x-ray all the horses, because they don't have an Ohio license, right? And we have had a couple of clients say, my buddy in Florida uses so-and-so, or my buddy in Illinois uses so-and-so, but they really can't get here. And, you know, for such a big area, you guys are the vet clinic, I believe, for the most part. And to visit, you know, you guys see how many races go off at Northfield Park. Dr. Latessa is a primary veterinarian for everywhere around here. He's actually taking time out of his day to drink coffee and actually talk on this video where he could be, it's supposed to be, at work. So I do appreciate it, because the not knowing is a real problem, right? Now we have a baseline for every horse. Now we know how every horse that we have looked when it came out of the sale, and I do appreciate that, and I want everybody to know that that was a very fluid process. I left you guys to do that at your pace whenever you had time, and now it was hard to bring in real time. Keep in mind, I'm going to the Meadows, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm going to sales. So I left it to you to tell me which ones needed to get looked at, and then we had booked them with Dr. Brown's clinic and sent them over in truckloads. The last truckload is leaving next week. So your list for castrations, starting with and going to, who's the first one?
One of the ridglings was the pacing colt, Dancing in My Socks.
Dancing in My Socks. He didn't go. Did he go yet?
I believe so.
Oh yes, no, he
Yeah.
went the other day.
Yeah.
So we had 3 ridglings that were over so far to get fixed. Dancing in My Socks was one.
Yeah, and the other dancing by myself.
Dancing by Myself, Stolen Dance's baby was a ridgling. Was there one of the horse we'd already got fixed?
You already.
Pretty sure there was one in the front stall.
Is there a mountain horse? Or...
Yes.
Yeah.
The Prince horse, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Mountain View Prince.
Something like that.
Yeah, the Michigan horse was
Yeah.
originally also. Or was it Wally?
No, he came.
It was
already
the.
gelded.
Oh right, Wally did. You're right. You're 100% right. So Mountain View Prince was the other ridgeling that
Yeah.
was fixed.
Yeah.
Correct. Bingo. Okay, so we had 3 ridgelings so far that were fixed at Dr. Brown's clinic. They're geldings now. Everything is good with them moving forward. In fact, all those horses. Well, no.
The priest.
The Priest was the 4th one. Thank you. The Priest who we just bought. Also, he X-rayed clean though, right?
Yes.
So the Priest X-rayed clean, no OCDs, but was a ridgeling. He's now a gelding. 4 geldings so far at the stable. We have the Priest, Mountain View Prince, Dancing with My Socks, and
Dancing by myself.
Dancing by Myself. Thank you.
And we gelded other ones.
We gelded other ones. We'll bring you that another time. We'll give you a full update of everybody. That is a very, very just general thing. Not really a big deal. But there has been some horses that we have castrated. Generally, if they come in the barn and they're loud and they're ornery and they're rude, they're babies. You got to give them a little room to grow up and learn the tricks of the trade. Like last year, Lauren got struck in the head by Antilles Hanover, gelding right away. This year we had the called Muscle Chrome's baby. That one was striking at people, castrated right away. There's certain things that I'm just not going to put up with in the barn, and this is after a week or a week and a half of being in the barn. So there has been that buffer period where the horses should be learning, and if they do have that little dirt to them where they're going to bite you or they're going to kick you, I'm much more apt to castrate them. After a month, if they're loud and squealing, they may be castrated. Horses like, for obvious reasons, Captain and horses like that are going to get a wider berth, and that may sound unfair, but you guys, surely you understand why. And he's been a sweetheart for the last little while also. So again, when he started, Lauren wanted to take care of him, and I wanted Lauren to take care of the horse. He was bossy, he was a little bit rude because he was a stud, but now he's learned. He's a smart colt. He doesn't do any of that anymore. So let's keep on the list. OCDs?
OCDs.
I talked to Dr. Rucker yesterday about a Trant.
Right.
It was funny because he had said he had the horse looked at. The right hock had an OCD. It was removed. I think he said right hock, and he was surprised that you had found yet another OCD in that right hind ankle. So here's a horse that was looked at, was scanned. Right hind ankle showed nothing, and then after a couple of 3 weeks of work, you found an OCD in the right hind ankle.
Correct.
So that happens, and that was a perfect example. A Trant, Dr. Rucker's horse, will have that removed in the next load that goes over. The last load, I believe, that goes over.
Yeah. Another one was the one that was originally also the Dancing by Myself.
Right. Yep.
OCDs.
Right. You have a left hock, and then a question mark on the right one. What was that all about?
So that was made a note to Dr. Brown, just re-radiograph that.
Because you thought there might be something
there.
There
Might be one in there that was hiding, so just take a couple different images.
And he didn't say anything to us.
Yeah, so it was fine.
Okay.
Manhattan Money.
Manhattan Money, yeah, the International Money Colt.
Yeah.
I like him. He's a big, strong bugger too, but he's come. We castrated him. I know you did.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Because I was going to say he's been coming at people with the front feet the first week. I thought he was getting better. He is getting better, but he was also castrated. So he was castrated and then getting better. Now, I think it's worth saying you don't see the change overnight. You castrate the horse. Sometimes it takes a while for them to start to behave. And a perfect example, I don't know if you remember Memory and Imagination last year, how bad he was. Yeah. And I kept him a stud, and then at Christmas we finally said enough's enough. We castrated him, and around January you started to see that change. By the end of January, he was a totally different horse, and then obviously the rest of his story was written all year. But that's a perfect example. And there are some breeds, Father Patrick's, I'm not really going to give them a lot of leeway. If they have that little bit of anger and dirt to them, I'm more apt to castrate them right away, because I've seen this play out before.
Well, you don't want to get hurt. You don't want them to get hurt.
And for you too out there, this is the one difference between our stable and other people. I have to take care of myself, my family, our caretakers, but I'm also very aware that you come to the barn also. So it is very, very, very important that our horses behave when they're in the cross ties. I tell everybody I got kicked pretty good by High Hopes a month ago or so. She give it to me pretty good. But that's my fault. I was in her stall, and I was trying to get her squared around. I growled at her, roared at her, and she kicked me. That's her barn. Out in the shed row, though, that's not acceptable. In the barn, in the stall, you better be on your best behavior as far as the caretaker goes, because that's where they live. On the cross ties, that's a totally different thing. I have to look out for everybody, you also, and the people that work for you, and our clients also.
Right.
Anybody else?
That's all I have on my list right now.
I think you don't know, but I said, did Rosetta get done?
No.
I can't remember. Anyway, I'll reach out to everybody. I wanted to bring everybody the information of why we take the OCD, what they are, why we take them out, where they came from, how they can form, what the procedure is to take them out, and what the downtime is for. And it's different. If you have an OCD and a hawk in a bad area and they got to kind of go in and look for it and get it, it can cause a little more inflammation and irritation. There's going to be more time needed. But if it's your everyday run of the mill, we've had horses, you took them out, the sutures come out, the horse goes right down the track and walks along. A couple of days later, they're jogging. It's not a problem at all.
Right.
So it's different for every horse. But I wanted everybody to understand, when you hear OCD, it's not the end of the world. When you hear crypt orchid, a ridgling or a gelding, it's not a big deal. These are all things that we're doing to ensure when we get to February, everybody is on an even playing field. Now it's just up to them to put the work in. I don't want to hear any excuses about why they couldn't, because the OCDs are out. Everything's taken care of. Now, what are the odds that an OCD could form between now and January? Because they do, but would you say that you would likely see them after 3 weeks of work and you wouldn't see them after that, or it still could happen, or it's likely?
I think it's unlikely at this point where we have their development. I feel right now what we see is what we're going to see.
Oh, that's good. I didn't know. I thought you'd say, well, you never can tell. But when it comes to the horses, it's always good. I like the saying Ronnie said about the broken toy, don't start with the broken. So when it comes to us also, we train our horses in a stressful environment. They're always in sets, right? They're always around a lot of other horses. We do train them hard. I do treat them like athletes, and we need to know that we can treat them like athletes. I can't expect horses to go out there and perform as well as other horses with ailments, with things that are bothering them. So now is the time. This is the first year, and as I said, thank you very much to know what our playing field is, be able to flatten it so that all the horses that have the OCDs, they're now out. All the horses that are crips are now out. Any horses that are acting up, now that might be changed. That may change along the way. Come February, you got a stud that's starting to be rude or ignorant or not doing his work because then that can change. But knowing that these OCDs and crips are taken care of is vitally important.
Right. And one thing with OCDs, there will be people where we do survey radiographs and there's an OCD or maybe not an OCD, and 6 months from now it breaks a sesamoid. Well, you told me the horse x-rayed fine.
Yeah.
Or it breaks a knee. It fractures a knee or breaks a bone.
Sounds like this is almost like an oral waiver that we're getting.
Right? Pretty much, because those are different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
those are very different. And, I didn't see a fractured sesamoid when I x-rayed it 6 months ago. But maybe with training and development through the season, things.
And there's no way to tell either. No. Somebody say, well, it must have looked weak. Not really. Yeah. We've had horses, perfect example is Punch the Clock. Yeah. Trained down perfect, did everything right, raced that first night, and had that very rare and very odd avulsion. Right, avulsion. Can you tell people exactly what that is? Because I can't explain it. I don't understand it.
So the suspensory ligament in a horse, it will attach to the cannon bone. It attaches there. Yep. So avulsion is when it pulls off that cannon bone. So not the whole thing doesn't pull off, but just a
piece of it.
Little
Does
fibers.
it take? Was there a little piece of bone?
So a little bone comes with it. So they'll call it an avulsion fracture, avulsion piece, and you can see a little bit on X-ray if you know what you're looking for.
And that's what Dr. McKee. It took 2 or 3 X-rays.
Yeah. And
actually a good 2 weeks for them to figure out exactly what had happened, because it's so. It's your worker, because it's so rare. And when it comes to her in particular, she's not going to make it easy on us. I didn't tell you this, but she trained very, very good yesterday. Yeah. Her first training trip back was yesterday. My thinking was, if this is going... Now, this is very important. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but Is this the type of injury that she'll train good, qualify, and then boom, she'll get lame again? Or she could get lame at any point during her 3-year-old season? Or is this something where you gave her the time, she's got to the races, I don't think this will bother her?
So, to me, anything when you're involving suspensory or soft tissue, I always want to be open with it and let the trainers and clients know, yes, it could re-tear, you know, at one point. You know, we don't know.
Yeah.
You know, we can do everything we can to protect it, and, you know, different therapies and rehab protocols to help make it stronger.
There's
But
Amy.
it might be fine for 3 years, it might be fine for 3 months. It's hard to gauge.
Yeah. There's Amy.
Are you taking my spot, please?
Well, we didn't get your drink because you said to take it to the barn, so you're going to get your own drink. You can order it when we're done. So, all this is very important, especially with Punch the Clock, because when it comes to her, a little bit different than other horses, as you know. And I don't want to miss that breeding season, but it appears that she's not going to make it easy on us because she did train very good yesterday.
Very talented.
Very talented filly. So, listen, these are good problems to have.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're wrong, you're not really wrong. You still have a extremely talented animal. So we're going to do the best, and Dr. Latessa is going to be involved in this every step of the way, to watch her closely, watch how she is the day after she trains, watch how she is the next training, the training after that, and it'll be a step-by-step, week-by-week process. We would like to have something concrete by January where we can sink our teeth into it and say, geez, it looks like she's going to make it. And if we can do that, probably what she'll do is race a couple of times and then get another short break. Give us a little more time to really work on that, and then hopefully prep her for her stake season. I'm indifferent, right? I don't know if I want to go down the road of racing her all summer.
You're never indifferent.
I am. I usually am. I have my idea, but when it comes to this filly, she's really, there's two lanes there, and she hasn't picked one yet. So I do appreciate the time. I know you put in 26 minutes of time you could have been spent making money and injecting horses. But for me, it's just, I didn't do anything in the rain, so I'm okay.
Should I still bill you for it?
No, by no means should you bill me for it. I am going to...
order coffee for Amy.
That, and then I'm going to go get Lauren, and I'm going to go to the Meadows to race today in this glorious weather that I so much love. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you understand. I can give you horses that had OCDs removed. We'll give you a much more extensive list because it is growing and it is kind of fluid of when they were done, when they will be done, or when they were done. But I want everybody to understand what an OCD is, where it came from, what the prognosis is fairly good for most of them. So how do we approach it? How do we attack it? Both that and castrations. What it means, short-term, long-term, and exactly the process of the entire thing. So now hopefully you understand when I go to a sale and I hear OCDs or a ridgling, all I hear is usually value, because it's really easy to fix, and the long-term issues associated with a normal run-of-the-mill OCD removal from an ankle is pretty minimal.
Correct.
So now you have it. 28 minutes of talking about the procedures associated with our barn, the stance we've taken on both castrations and with OCDs this year, and hopefully have a positive outcome into 2024. Thank you very much for doing it. Not bad. The only person, this is a $6 drink. I got you to work for is this, no, that just happens every time. I got you to work for $3.
Oh, not bad.
$6 drink, half an hour work.
Yeah.
It's $3.
That's pretty good.
$12 an hour because you work for half an hour. I'm sorry. It's much less than you're used to working. Tax free. Yeah, much less than you're used to working for, but you did get a free drink out of it. So I appreciate it. Get back to work.
Okay.
And you have a wonderful day. Bye.